Vicky's coming?
Kim will be here.
Heath?
It's 6 o'clock. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And everybody turn your cell phones off, speak into the microphones, and we'll have roll call.
Mayor Schomburger.
Here.
Councilor Anderson.
Here.
Councilor Bain.
Here.
Councilor Baker.
Here.
Councilor Becker.
Here.
Councilor Quinlan.
Here.
Everybody has a copy of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 11th. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, they're approved as submitted. Visitors and delegations. Mary Lundstrom is first on my list here for visitors and delegations. And everyone remember, you get 3 minutes, and when you come up here, state your name and address. All right.
My name's Mary Lundstrom. I think everybody knows. 5 Noah Court in Rush. I came here, I'll first tell you a story. About 2 months ago, I heard my dog barking outside. He is a 7-pound Chihuahua. When I looked out, there was an easement with a 3-foot fence, and he was going nose to nose with a pit bull. I told him to get in the house. I grabbed a 2x2 off my desk and opened the door, and he ran in. Of course, the police came and got the dog. September 10th, about 9:30, I heard him barking again. This time, the dogs were in my yard. Same pit bulls. They were going after him and my other little Chihuahua. I got her in the house, and he kept barking at the Chihuahuas like he thought he was big like them. But I couldn't get him to come in the house. I started screaming at him, and that pit bull turned and looked at me and started toward me. My dog got in back of me to protect me. Finally got him in the house, and when I looked, I opened my door. The pit bull was right where Karen is, and I got my door shut just by the grace of God. He pounced on my door. I went to shut the other door, he pounced again. And all I could think of, if he gets in this house, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm telling you that story because that's the 5th time I've had a dog in my yard. And they've all been, I've had 2 Mastiffs. They've been in my yard twice. There was another couple of dogs that tried to get in my yard. I'm not real sure what they were. And then these 2 pit bulls. We have a huge problem in Nuns Edition and the Pioneer Subdivision with dogs just roaming around. You're afraid to, I can't let my dogs out when there's things like that. Right, and I found out the pit bulls live right behind me. So when I let my dogs out, I stand on my deck. I have a cane with me. I don't know what I'd do if they came after him, but I look for movement in that yard. And I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to not be able to take my dogs out. I can't walk them in that area. There is an abundance of these kind of dogs between Munns Addition and the Pioneer subdivision. And we need to have stricter situations where these dogs aren't gonna jump out of their yards. They're not gonna get out. The reason these dogs got out because there was a broken fence, and they got into that easement and saw my dogs. And the mastiffs, I don't even know where they came from. But, you know, I have a fear of letting my dogs out, and I shouldn't have to do that. So I'm asking you to come up with something that these owners need to be held responsible for their dogs.
Yeah, we do have a regulation on that, so we'll review that, see if there's something that we need to tighten on that, or if it's just more enforcement, or where we are on that. So we'll figure something out,
Okay.
and we'll get back with her. Yep, okay.
Easement is,
If you're gonna talk, you need, if you're gonna,
public property, therefore
You need-
everyone has the right to that common public
if you're gonna talk, you need to come to the front and state your name and address.
either you listen or you don't.
Okay.
Public,
Again, if you're gonna talk,
Public.
come to the front, state your name and your address.
you gotta know my name.
I don't care, you come to the front and state your name and address.
Hello?
Can I come to the front and talk?
We don't know if that thing works anyhow. Barely hear what you're saying.
My name's
Wawa.
Wanda Blake, and
Need the name.
my address is 705 Cotton Street in Brush. And on
That's all right,
August 22nd, we had 2 pit bulls at 6:15 in the morning kill 6 of our goats and 2 of our pigs. And, Mary, we're in Munns Edition. There's always dogs that come to our house. I have called the sheriff's department many times to have them pick up stray dogs. Something needs done to, keep people from just, having these dangerous dogs and them running the town. My daughter had those animals for many years, and now they're gone. You can't just replace something that you've kept the bloodline going. So,
Yeah. Now, Munns Edition is outside city limits, so that gets mucky and murky because that's a county
The
thing.
thing is, though,
Yeah.
is the dogs were from the city.
Oh, the dogs were from the city?
Yes, the dogs were from
Oh,
the city
okay.
that did this.
All right,
There's many pit bull owners, and I'm not just saying pit
Yeah.
bulls. We've had German shepherds, we've had,
okay,
labs, so,
all right.
okay, thank you.
Yep,
Might be mistaken again.
Sir, this is public forum, if you could either abide by the rules or perhaps
I
the
don't know the rules.
waiver.
I do not know the
Any
rules.
rules, sir.
Where are the rules?
the rules are that if you want to
Call the
speak,
mayor.
one more word, and I think you're gonna have to leave.
What are you gonna do, turn me out? Need a farmer.
Pardon?
Need a farmer.
What,
I'll gladly
Can we-
volunteer. You wanna help out the door, I'll gladly volunteer.
Yeah.
Zip it up.
we can send him out anytime,
Yep.
anytime, yep.
Fine button. Oh, you're the king. Here, come on. Come on.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very much. My name is Denise Lee Fondy. I live at 969 North Custer Street in Men's Edition, Pembroke. And I know we are in the county, that I've had 2 instances just this summer with dogs coming to the fence and trying to get to my horses. They were pit bulls. The sheriff's office was called. They came out. The dogs tried to attack the horses, myself, and 2 officers. They did take those dogs into custody and release them then that night back to the owner after the owner paid the fine. The next week, those same dogs were back again. The sheriff had to come get them again, and then they turned around and gave them right back to the owner. And that just doesn't seem fair to us. You know, the people that are law-abiding and doing what we're supposed to do and trying to protect our livestock and our kids, and they just keep coming back and there's nothing that's done about it.
yeah.
I know a couple of counselors have asked for this to be put on a work session to look. We have a dangerous dog policy, not necessarily a vicious dog, it's called dangerous dog. It was taken right from Colorado statutes, but that's one of the things I'd like to look at when we get into a work session is what the penalty is for it and whether the dog goes back to the owner in a case like that.
And how
Yeah.
will we find out then, if there's gonna be any changes to the policies that are?
Well, you're more than welcome to come to any work session that council has where we talk about that.
Or give Andrea your name and phone number and we'll contact you. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, there's a trend here, so we need to get on top of things.
My name's Ed Lundstrom, 1016 Edmund Street in Brush. I'm Mary's brother. And I just want to state my concern about this because when she told me this is the second time that these dogs have been called on. And what bothers me is the fact that that dog jumped up at her at the door twice, and she said that dog was almost eye to eye with her. All that, and she told the police officer this, and all that was done was the guy was fined again. There should be some kind of thing in place where the dogs are quarantined or whatever until you find out if they're dangerous, if they got rabies or anything else. When it looks like they are going to attack or be dangerous to anybody, especially humans, they need to be checked out. It worries me because she's got arthritis. She can't just jump up on the deck and get into the house if one of them gets over the fence. And she's out there watering her lawn or whatever. So having a policy is one thing, but putting it in force is another.
Mhm.
If the police officer's told that that dog lunged, then that dog should have been taken in. And that's what I'm concerned about.
All right. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
Okay.
That makes me think the dogs that did, do that to her, the officer knew about our situation at the time too, and for them to just take the dog back to the owner and just give him a ticket, I don't see how that was proving anything. You know, the dog should have been taken in to the pound or something, so,
Okay.
okay.
Yep. Next.
My name's Tyrone Whipple, 807 North Custer. I had a situation where my automobile was shot by an officer, and I applaud the police department. I had no fault against Officer Quick or the chief. I think they, everything they did, they were supportive of me, of my family, what happened. Kind of similar thing happened. My significant other, her daughter moved to Denver, and we were watching their dog until they could pay a pet deposit. They had moved 2 days earlier. The anxiety. We rescue dogs over there, and we keep dogs until we could move them. Anyway, the dog broke the fence, got out, went across the neighbor's yard. My neighbor next door to me, he didn't know that we were watching the dog. He called because code enforcement had went around and was warning them about the dogs that these people were talking about. At this time, the dog was on the neighbor's porch across the street. the neighbor across the street shooed him across the street. He walked across. He walked across the street past 8 or 9 people, not aggressive. When Officer Quick showed up, Officer Quick was told by my neighbor, I think this is the pit bulls that have been terrorizing the neighborhood. The dog went to the backyard, tried to get back in the fence. When Officer Quick came and approached the dog became aggressive, tried to protect itself, trying to get in the fence, came at him. He shot 4 shots, which one hit the back of my car and ricocheted through a fish tank right next to my house. And it was an unfortunate incident. Immediately the dog went back and tried to paw and get in the backyard. When I came out, I told him, no, that isn't those dogs, and I put the dog away. I found out recently. I spoke with Officer Quick, told the city of Brush, told me to go get estimates, and spoke with the chief. He told me to go talk with Karen. I found out about a month later that spoke with Brian McKinney, who said that he said I wasn't at fault, but the city has a governmental immunity policy, and my claim's only $1,800. My concern is my insurance is gonna go up, and I wasn't at fault, and I think it was a misunderstanding because my neighbor was told that to call if they see any pit bulls because those dogs are still out. Those dogs had been apprehended 2 days earlier. So I brought my claim. I did everything they asked me to do. Took time off work, went and got estimates, and brought the estimate in, which I have right here, which is only for $1,700. And Mr. McKinney said that they would pay my deductible. But my concern is I've talked to my insurance company. My insurance rate's still going to go up right now, and my significant other has just been diagnosed with multiple myeloma, so we're looking to change insurance companies. So I'm just asking if they would reconsider and pay the claim, which is $1,700. If they were going to pay $1,000, I feel $700 more isn't that much. So
We'll get with people and think and have it at a work session.
Do we have
Do
the
you have a copy?
estimates?
I have, it's the same we've already submitted.
Yes,
Yep,
yes,
I
ma'am.
still have
Yep.
it.
All right.
Thank
So,
you.
Yep, thank you. Next, anybody? Are there anybody else that wants to speak before we move on?
I'd like to. When I was about 3 years old, I was attacked by dogs, and I have a big scar underneath my neck. And I was sent to the emergency room, and my mom said I barely survived it. So I have a lot of sympathy for everybody out here. And what I'd like to see is maybe a bigger fine imposed. That's what I'll be going for. And you won't get your dog back unless you pay a big fine. And I'm talking like $1,000, $2,000 in fines, because I was attacked by dogs too. So, and I have kids in the community, and the first thing when I heard those dogs on the loose, I was at the middle school, and the first thing I did was start checking around. Is there any middle school kids out on the football field, on the track? And so I want a safe community too. So thanks everybody.
Oh, yeah. So, as I said before, anybody else on any topic that wants to speak in the visitors and delegations before we move on to our next management topic? So, any topic at all.
My name's Rob Baranowski. I live at 340 Glacier Avenue, and I was just hoping to follow up on the old home that has been brought into our neighborhood to see where we're at with that development process.
Where are we at? There's still a stop work order, is that correct?
There's still a stop work order in place, and the applicant has been working diligently to bring everything into compliance. I know he has an application in with the state of Colorado for the asbestos permit for moving that house. And then they did go and have a qualified contractor do the asbestos evaluation, produce that report. And they've also submitted a statement of how they intend to address the couple of things in that house that did show asbestos. So they're moving forward, and as soon as they have the rest of their pieces in place, they will have demonstrated compliance and should be able to continue work at that point.
You can't hear a word she's saying.
Okay.
It's all going forward tonight.
Yep. All right. Do you want to say any more, or should I repeat that things are, he's in the process of getting the permits, he's submitted the permits for stuff, and once everything is completed on that, then, assuming it's all correct, then work will proceed. That's where we're at.
So is it my understanding that brush does actually allow the building, old reclaimed building materials with asbestos to be allowed in new build?
I don't know for sure if there's specific rules on that.
There are environmental concerns for sure,
Yeah.
having it dragging in and bounced around and having all that liberated.
Yeah, I think we're awaiting the report from the state asbestos people.
So if they're allowed to retroactively get the permit they needed to move the home, they will be allowed to erect that home there?
Assuming that they meet all of the existing permits and regulations.
Does the city take into account what happens to neighborhood value when stuff like a 1957 home with possible condemnation and subpar building materials are brought into the community?
I don't think,
Is that not part of what you guys are allowed to consider when granting a permit?
not, it isn't, as far as I know. We are just making sure that things are up to code.
Do we have any updates on the list of protective covenants that exist for the Westwood subdivision?
I don't know on that, I think
I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being very invasive, but I.
Yeah, no,
don't
it's
want to
okay.
get up, but I
It's
think
okay.
we all have some concerns here.
The covenants that were provided at the last meeting, I did take a look at those, and from what I've been able to determine, they apply to a subdivision located just to the east and not to that area that you're talking about, the southern part of Glacier Avenue and then the 2 streets west of that. They're not part of that subdivision covenants.
One thing I'd like to say, if we find that we have no legal ability to stop this kind of thing from happening, I'd like to see staff look into specific legal advice to see how we can prevent it in the future, because I can absolutely see that where this could have a detrimental effect on property values. And I think the city should be interested in it, because we need to do everything we can to protect property values. Why? Because the revenue that the city takes in is based on property values. So if we have something going on that's going to detrimentally affect property values, we need to enact something to prevent that. I see this as a poison over there. And I'll give you an example. I don't see it, I mean, I see it as lowering property values for the homeowners there, but I also see it as being very detrimental to the future of that project out there. And I'll give you an example. Last week I went to an economic summit conference in Keensburg. At that conference, I had a gentleman come up that was interested in putting 20 to 30 spec homes in Brush. He specifically identified that area, and the first question that he had was, what about that house that's sitting over there? So it clearly can have a detrimental effect on that house.
We've been talking with, word gets around, we have a small community, Morgan is close to us too. I've heard talk of this home just in passing while going through Fort Morgan. We have concerns about our individual situation, but yeah, I agree with you. As a community, this brings everyone's value down. It's not just ours that we're worried about. I ran a couple numbers, and we actually brought in a realtor to talk about what that house might be able to sell for. They agree that based on what is being used in the build, the house will qualify as a 1980 home roughly, which will give it a valuation of roughly the other homes in the area built in the 80s. So if you do a comparison with Applewood, just one street over to the east, they're roughly 25% lower in sales value over the last 2 years than our neighborhood. we were to take that kind of home and put it in our neighborhood, it will drop its value at least 25% below the standard. It also doesn't have a finished basement, the ones that I've spec'd out do, so you may lose more. But just as a city, the city of Brush in the next 10 years would lose about, assuming that we drop 20% in our valuation in tax revenue, the city of Brush would lose about $8,000 to $10,000, and the school district would actually lose almost $70,000. So it's a big deal for not just us, but it's for the community, for development. So I appreciate your candor in agreeing with some of the stuff that we're looking at. That's kind of the big concern. We want to see our community grow and develop, and you need to be able to keep the builders interested. And we hear builders say stuff like, oh, we can't go and consider an area like that. Well, now you've taken the property owned by the bank and make it a little harder to sell, and you've taken anything that we have and removed equity from the neighborhood. If we were to lose 18% equity, which still puts us above other 1980s comps, the neighborhood asset that is lost is close to $1.8 million. So I'd ask you all to consider that, but it does sound like you are, so thank you for your time.
One thing I would recommend too is if the homeowners that are over there get together and possibly partner with the bank who owns those lots to try to develop some sort of HOA agreement. And I know homeowners association agreements have a bad name because sometimes they can be too restrictive, but in this type of instance, they can be a godsend too.
Yeah.
I would have to probably look through this. It looks like with the picture that they drew of the original Westwood, it included everything. There are multiple phases. Speaking with folks involved in realty, generally a covenant that is issued or a set of covenants for a home development will transpire throughout the entire set of phases, not just phase one. So if there is no legal recourse here, I guess I understand where the city stands, but we are just as concerned as.
Yeah, we share your concerns. We just don't have the ability to deal with that we can tell right now. So, yeah.
Kyle Bonbon. I live at 2713 Yosemite Street. I'm also here about the house over there. I'm obviously concerned too about property value, and we've actually tried to talk to the bank about starting an HOA and stuff, but I'm guessing it's probably too late. That property already over there to do that. So I just want you to know you're 100% right that it's gonna make people not want to come to the neighborhood, because I live over there now, and I actually had talked to the bank at one time of buying 2 lots to build a house on and sell my house, but I can tell you right now, that'll never happen. If I can get my house sold, I won't live in Brush anymore based on this, because if I can build somewhere else in Brush and this can roll in next door to me, I'm not gonna have it. So you're possibly losing a person who'd be here for 40, 50 years, so just think about that.
Rob Zilmer, 449 Samples Avenue, Brush, and I have financed anywhere from 5 to 7 homes, new homes, single-family dwellings in Brush since 2003, including 344 Glacier, the Yosemite house that you live in, and the last spec house, custom spec house that was built, 345 Carlsbad Drive. Okay, when I finished that, I had verbal commitment on the lot that that house is sitting on right now. So when I was in California a couple weeks ago, I was being inundated by people wanting to know what the heck I was doing. I didn't go through with that verbal commitment with Farmer State Bank. It didn't work out. I wanted to put another custom-built spec house on that lot, but I can tell you right now, if I had my corporation active, there would be no way that I would put a brand new spec house on that piece of property where the house is now, knowing that it's gonna be directly west of there. And when I asked about, Karen has been a real stickler for me since 2003, and that's positive. I'm not taking anything away there. I told her the other day, if I tried to do this, there'd be no way in heck that I would be able to do this. When I inquired about 345 Carlsbad Drive, when it was a vacant lot, maybe I could get Wardcraft Homes to go in there, and they would build one at their manufacturing site. Then they had it in Fort Morgan. addition to Minden, Nebraska. The response from City of Brush was, Rob, it's gotta be stick-built on-site, on premises, so I can do my building inspections. At that time, I just blew it off and got my normal contractor to build the house that the Youngs live in now. But there's a bad taste on my side of the ledger when I was told that in the spring of 2013. Yeah, I let it slide, but then I see what's happening now. So I just wanted to come forward and say my piece, so, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bernie Sewell. I live at 336 Glacier, right beside Rob, next to him, and right on the southeast of the Youngs, and which they just purchased their house 2 years ago. I bought there because I like the area. When I talked to the appraiser at the time, I asked him if there was any chance of anything else coming in or what was gonna be built over there in those vacant lots. And I was under the understanding back in 2011, when I bought that house, that it was gonna be all stick-built homes. Now, with that one moving in, I don't think you're gonna get anybody that's gonna come in and build a house in there when they have to sit there and look at that eyesore that's sitting over there right now. I feel I was gone. I was up in the mountains helping a friend of mine move out of the mountains, and I come back home and that thing was sitting there, and it was devastating. I can't imagine the city allowing something like that to move into a new construction area and a development area that the houses are going up in. I'm fully against it. I don't know what we have to do to get this resolved, but I'm willing to go with the rest of them to fight this thing to the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merle Drower, 436 Harbor. Just to begin with, I can understand the concern, and I see the concern, and I see what's seen there when you drive over to the house, but I can say that I've been in multiple construction projects, both on the residential and the commercial end. In Kansas, I built up to 52 houses a year for about 5 years straight. I've been in multiple remodels and went into a lot of old houses and redone those houses. I understand this looks a little different because we moved the house from a property, but at the same time, I can also guarantee you that I've seen property values, and I've also done my homework on what we're doing over there. I understand that at the end of the day, when people drive by there, they see an old house with old metal siding and old shingles and old windows. But what we've seen was an opportunity to move a house into a neighborhood and put almost a 1,350 square foot house with the 3 bedrooms, all remodeled. It's gonna have the sheetrock, the roofing. It's gonna have an addition put on it. It's gonna have a garage, 2-car garage put on it. The foundation's structurally engineered. It's a proper foundation. The architectural work was actually done by an architecture firm, as well as the layout. Everything's gonna be professionally taken care of. A lot of stuff has been going around the asbestos. I think anybody in the building community or anybody that's been involved in the building community understands that more than likely any property pre-1985 is gonna contain asbestos. In our case, we knew the asbestos was there. We got the original abatement done in February. The guy that did it didn't fill out the proper paperwork on his end. We've got that remedy. We do have the proper paperwork for the asbestos, and we will properly abate the asbestos. I think, once again, anybody that's dealt with any of this stuff knows that there's more likely chance that your older houses over here that you guys have, that people just go in and remodel and throw the sheetrock out in the trash can and stuff like that, or the plaster mostly is where the asbestos is found, or the old flooring. That stuff happens way more often than not, that goes under the radar, and we're not trying to do that. We're not trying to sneak something by anybody. So, in all fairness to the project, I feel like, we've kind of got stopped, and now it's set there as long as it has, and everybody's saying, well, it's more of an eyesore than it should be, and I understand that, I do. But I think at the same time, if the foundation gets done, we get the thing on the foundation, we got new cement siding, we got new insulation, we have to bring all new doors and windows to bring it to energy code. At the end of the day, we're looking at a pile of lumber that we're gonna use out of that thing. Now, on our end, whether that's smart or not to bring that house in as above the stick frame, you know, by law, and if it is by law, then that's nobody's, you know, business but ours on how we went about it. I think that, you know, if given the chance, I think at the end of the day, everybody's gonna see a nice house go in there. And, you know, I've been told all day long by multiple realtors that we're looking at a $230,000 to $250,000 property when we're finished with it, and I believe that's true. I've built in Brush in the county. I built a new house actually, and I sold it within a year of living there. I guess at the end of the day, I say I know what I'm doing, and if what we're doing is right and it's above board, then I feel like we should be able to proceed and let the end product speak and not what everybody sees in the beginning. Because sometimes things are ugly when they start, but they finish just fine. So
I think part of the problem is you put new roof, new windows, new siding, it's still not gonna blend in with neighborhood architecture. The styles are so diverse that can have a negative effect of the other property
and I've
values.
actually, and we looked into that, and I don't know if you've had a chance to go through our elevation plan set, but we do have some architectural stuff coming. We're gonna build some additional gables on the front of the house to bring the front of the house together to tie in the entry. We're also gonna set the garage at a separate angle to where we have separate roof pitches. We'll have a small covered porch in the back. It will blend it will look like a new house when it's finished. I can guarantee you that my name being on it and the fact that I'm not doing it to see if I can break even, it's gonna be nice and it will blend in. I believe it's gonna be one of the nicer properties in the area when finished, if given the chance.
Can you, one thing, I drove over there just in the last couple of days. In fact, I did right before this meeting tonight.
Yes, sir.
That fence that you have over, that thing's sitting up on blocks 3.5 feet in the air.
Correct.
A lot of people at the last meeting expressed some concern about safety, stuff like that. That fence isn't adequate to keep people off that property while it's up on the block. Can you put something around that is more substantial that a 6-year-old can't find their way through?
I can absolutely, and I have small children, and you know, I've seen all the arguments, and I know the whole shouldn't be there. I know how it is with kids, so there's not an argument there on our side. I think our larger argument would be at this point we're awaiting a travel permit, which was also improperly filled out by our moving company, not by us. We were told that we were compliant with what we had. We have now got that into the state. That's supposed to be turned back over to us. We're hoping to get it in the next couple days. It was part of the asbestos paperwork that we got refilled out and paid the additional monies to get done to be up to snuff for everybody. That's not a problem. I think a better issue for me is at the end of the day, we gotta have the foundation. If we get the foundation in, we fill the hole in, that's one less problem for everybody. And you know, we're gonna do everything we can to move forward with this. I see nothing good coming out of making us sit on this thing another 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, all we're doing is letting it sit there. If we get the foundation in, the house sits on the foundation, we pour the garage foundation, the framing begins, and it's taken care of. And just to clear everybody's concerns, there's absolutely zero asbestos found on the exterior of the house. There was 3 areas of asbestos, all very low levels, some window glazing, some old floor tile in the bathroom, and a piece of mastic that went around for the heater that was that big around. And all of that's still in the house, and it's all gonna be properly abated. It'll be documented, and it'll be abated by a licensed company.
Are you under the impression that you can't do anything with the fencing because of the stop work order that exists now?
We're under the impression that we're not supposed to be over there, and that's why we've left well enough alone. We also got told about some shingles blowing off, and we understand all that. At the end of the day, I would have had the foundation done, I would have had the house set 2 weeks ago if we would have, and be it on our fault, be it on us to not do our homework a little better, to have the proper paperwork. I'm not at all saying that, you know, hey, we should have just been able to waive what happened and walk right through it. Not whatsoever, but I do believe now that we've shown, you know, more than our due diligence to become compliant and show the city at the end of the day, you know, that we want to make sure that this thing looks like the rest of the neighborhood. And you know, I'd like to say when we're done with it, I hope it looks better. You know, I hope everybody comes back and says, you know, we should have gave this thing a chance. But I absolutely see the concern, and I do. 100%. You know, if it was sitting next to me, I would maybe walk over and say something. But
you know, I've been on the property multiple times and I've seen people come out, and I'm a very approachable person. So if anybody has any questions and they see me outside here, I hope they ask me, and I hope I can show them and relay to them that, you know, we're not looking to park that thing on the foundation and put a sign in front of it. You know, I'm looking to put a nice three-bedroom house with a full basement in, you know, for the city, that regardless of what anybody says, we have very inadequate housing for what they're putting in around the rest of communities. And
What's your timeline? Is it 3 months, 6 months?
Well,
what is it? No, beyond
no,
yeah.
yes,
Once you
sir,
get
absolutely.
the house set.
You get the green light.
Yes, sir. From start to finish, you know, what we've discussed, we'd like to get going with the foundation this week. We could have that, I believe, Karen's gonna be gone on vacation for a few days. When she got back, we were hoping to have her inspect it for the foundation. We would then take the forms off the foundation. That would be next Friday. We would then backfill the hole on that Monday, get the house set, dig the garage. We're probably looking at 2 weeks of garage, and then we'll start framing. At that point, once the framing starts, weather depending, of course, we're starting to get in that time of year to where no promises will be made. I can't rip the roof off the house without knowing full well I can get the house dried back in. I think in all fairness, we're looking at 90 days to be framed inside. And at that point, the interior work, you know, it'll be done probably once we get the roof on, we can start on the interior work. We're probably looking at 40 to 45 days for interior work, depending on the electrical needs to be completely redone. So we need to pull all the electrical out of the upstairs, and it'll have all new electrical. You know, it'll have all new HVAC. It'll have all new plumbing. There won't be anything used in the house other than the floor joist, the rafters, and we'll see what the plywood looks like under the shingles. I can't even at this time tell you that we won't have to re-plywood the roof, but, you know, without getting going on it, that's the problem. It's just gonna sit there and create a lot more animosity than it would being finished. And once again, I don't think that anybody can make a huge argument that a 1,400 square foot house is gonna bring down the rest of that neighborhood in value. It's gonna sell all day long for the value of the neighborhood. I know that. Very confident.
Do we have a timeline or know when we will get all this asbestos stuff done or get organized on that?
Yes, sir, I do, and I actually, I don't know if you brought an extra copy of it, but I made extra copies of our abatement process and how we plan to abate. All that's written down. As soon as the house is set on the foundation and we get the framing done on the garage and tie in the new portion of the roof, we'll replace the roof. At that point, then we'll replace all the doors and windows. As soon as the doors and windows are replaced, we will then put all new siding on the house. So we have to set the house. We have to take the only thing that has to come out is the windows and the actual small piece of mastic that's in the, it's a piece of 2.5 or 3 inch flue pipe is what it is from the old furnace that's in the attic. So we'll have the company come and take that out. So the asbestos in the bathroom is actually in good shape. They actually say that the best way to remedy that is to cover it with flooring and not to disturb that area. So that's from the actual abatement company, and that's what happens more often than not with this process. When asbestos is found, they try not to disturb the faucet and contain it.
Could we still address the safety concern?
Absolutely, no, and absolutely, that's fine. And I feel if that's a big enough concern, I'll work something out with Karen. I'll get over there. We'll put up some additional fencing if that will ease some of the tension of the situation.
Well, it isn't even completely surrounded. I mean, it's got
I understand what it is,
both
sir.
sides. I mean, it's open at both ends.
understand
I don't
And
understand what that attempt was.
I do, and like I said, I'm not here to argue common sense factors. I understand common sense of it. I have no problem with that. By law, though, it is private property, and we can, but that's not a problem.
Well, private property in Denver has a chain link fence around something that's sitting up on blocks 3.5 feet.
Like I said, I'm not arguing common sense. I understand. I understand the concern, and I have no problem doing some additional fencing.
It's not just up on the blocks that's the concern. And I drove by it as well. That's a huge hole. And so the fencing should be also around the basement that you've dug, in addition to around the house.
It's not an issue. So, well, once again, we planned on having that finished, and when we got the stop work order, we stopped work. I mean, we poured the foundation on Friday. I came back over there on Monday expecting to see the guys going on the foundation, and we had a stop work order. So from there, we've been scrambling to get the rest of the stuff done. I wasn't sure what was allowed and not allowed, so I understand. So I also wasn't gonna get ticketed for being over there, working either. So, I mean, it's, like I said, it's a common sense thing, and I understand common sense, so I have no problem with that whatsoever. But I also think that the quicker this thing moves, the faster everybody forgets about it, and I think, you know, standing here 6, 7 months from now, that house is sold down the road, and hopefully we'll be on to the next one, so that's our plan.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Karen Young. I live at 345 Carlsbad. I stare at that every day. And I've got a question. That can't be sold as a brand new home. We know that from experience. We totally burnt down, had to rebuild. And that was in '93. But when we went to sell the house, it still had to be sold as a 1980s house. What is that doing to our value? And what's gonna happen to our taxes when this comes in? They should drop.
I have one more concern on it. I hope you do what you say you're gonna do and do it the right way, but obviously the abatement of the floor tile, if you're just gonna cover it, you're gonna have to disclose that it does have asbestos in it when you sell the home. And that's gonna hurt value as well. And good luck to you selling it, cause my wife works in Fort Morgan, she works in a hair salon, and everybody is laughing at the city of Rush right now that came from Fort Morgan to here. So you're gonna have to get someone from probably outside of
I think
Morgan
you're supposed
County.
to address them, not me.
So probably gonna have to get
Pretty sure
someone from outside of
you
Rush
teach
to
that
buy
way.
that, or outside of Morgan County to buy that house, so I hope it goes for what it says it's going to, otherwise it's gonna be a detriment to everybody else's property value. And I hope you guys are looking in the best interest for us. Obviously, as a city administrator and zoning and planning, you should be looking out for your citizens. And if we're gonna get posed like that and lose property value, maybe we ought to look at a change there. Thank you.
I'd like to illustrate one thing that I moved out in Fort Morgan on 144, and there was a mobile home sitting next door to my house, which was supposed to have been sitting there just until the man got his house built. I moved there and lived there 18 years. They grandfathered it in by the county, and the man moved another mobile home in, which brought down the property. When I got ready to sell my house and move away from there, the appraiser said, had there not been a mobile home or 2 mobile homes sitting next door, which one was added on to the other one, I would have got a better appraisal on my property. Now, I look at it this way, if the city allows this house to move in there, how many more houses are we gonna take that are being trashed out or junked out in the community? Are we gonna sit back and let these all come in? Because once you let one in, you're gonna start letting all of them in. And it's like the gentleman was saying, the development, people aren't gonna come in and wanna develop new houses if they got something in there that's gonna, I don't care what you do, it's still a 1985 or a 1988 home, whatever it was. But it's still gonna bring down the property, it's gonna bring down the taxes, and that means less taxes for the county and the city and the state.
Yeah, I don't think we ever envisioned this happening, and I am scrambling, or I don't know if there's any rules now, but we can get into developing rules, but that's down the road. So that doesn't help here, but that, who knew we'd have to address this, so.
My taxes just went up, so now if this house moves in, my taxes should go down. And I think after talking to a number of the neighbors in the vicinity, that was one of the first things they said. Well, our taxes just went up. If that house goes in, our property valuation's gonna go down, the taxes should go down also with it.
That's really not something we're in control of. That's county. That's not something the city of Rush can.
But still, it's.
Yeah, we can't control that.
Thank you.
Evening. My name is Alan Scott.
seen kids climbing on the dirt hills right next to the hole with the rebar sticking up. And I understand this builder's concern, I sympathize a little bit. Most construction sites like that, there's somebody there every day working, and the kids probably won't be around all day. But there is a stop on this one, and it is sitting there, and I think what most people see is a very dangerous environment for anybody. The kids I saw, it was dusk, and you can't see real well, and that is a concern, and I hope that you will allow them to go in, fence the area off until this has been resolved. As far as the home values, I am also concerned. I didn't move into this neighborhood thinking that it was gonna end up being somewhere where everybody was just gonna start moving in, houses from outside to inside. I think what is, in my opinion, is what happening here is somebody's hoping to move something in that's subpar into a neighborhood that's really good, hoping to get a greater value out of that. Hope. And I think what really is gonna happen is all the values are gonna come down. We all see that. I mean, we presented quite a few facts tonight. Maybe the home will be beautiful when it's done, but as was said, in the end, it is what it is on the inside. So, it's like you put a 10-gallon hat on and 3-piece suit, it's still me. So just an analogy on that, I think we're trying to bring in a Ford Pinto and a stack of Cadillacs and hoping to get the same price out of it. It's just not gonna happen. So, again, there's community talk in the community in Wiggins where I work. There's talk around Fort Morgan. So they're glad to get rid of it. Everyone's sick of looking at it. Now we have to. And maybe it will be set on a foundation. And maybe it's gonna be something that's nice. But again, I don't think that's, in the end, cosmetically it is what it is, but we're just covering up what's, already there. As far as what the city is legally allowed to do, or what you can do, I guess your city attorney will figure that out. You guys tie this up in court, and maybe it'll just go away, I don't know. But I would ask you to maybe strongly urge this owner and builder to move this house to an environment that's a little more fitting. There's more than just this place over here where we live at, what it was when I came in, back in 2010. This is a nice part of town, new homes are being built. There's been one house built in that neighborhood since I've been here in 2010. And there's been talk of, coming in with these newer style homes, or maybe even more stick-built homes. We're seeing all these other communities getting houses built. Wiggins has got a whole new subdivision going on. Fort Morgan's got new building. We don't see that in Brush. And I think this is gonna prohibit even more of that, especially in this neighborhood, that we were hoping to expand and see more homes like the ones we have. So the city could urge, for this home to be an environment that's a little more fitting for it. I think that would be a great idea, if it's possible. I do appreciate all of you considering it, sounds like some of you are. And my wife isn't here to voice her opinion on her behalf as well. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Greg Dardanis, 948 Williams Street, Brush, and I know all you know who I am. What I would first say is, okay, there hasn't been a house built over there in 7 years. With the need for homes in Brush, why is that? I mean, it's a simple, no one is building over there. Okay, we bought that lot. If these people wanted to control their environment, they should have bought every lot there. If you don't wanna have anything go up around you that you don't wanna look at, then go out and buy a ranch somewhere where you can own the properties for as far as you can see. Now, this house, if you took a minute and looked at it, inside, it is a craftsmanship built home. That was the guy that built it was a master builder. That's why we didn't allow it to be torn down. We wouldn't even have touched it if it was an asbestos hazard. I mean, what do you think? That we're gonna move something in that we you know, we knew that would be a problem. So through this whole process, we've jumped through 100 hoops to make this happen. Now, when we got it moved, the guy that moved it, he's moved numerous homes in Colorado, and this is a new law that they have. It's a Clean Air Act that he had never had to deal with before. So there's not an asbestos issue. And as far as, now I didn't talk when other people were talking, so I think it's respectful when someone's talking to not try to banter in. Because I've lived in this community as long as probably, maybe longer than most any of you. And I want it to be, I love brush. And I wouldn't bring something in there that my name is gonna be on, that is gonna be an eyesore, or bring down the property value, or anything like that. And you got my name on it. And I've done business in this community for over 25 years, and my name is on my business. Now, if that doesn't say something for me, then what else do you want me to say? And we're in compliance with every other building code. As far as that goes, that house will, it's not gonna match up with the others, it's gonna look better. I guarantee it.
Hope you're right.
Don't hope, I know it.
Well, you have to, yeah.
And the other thing that you brought up, a builder that was gonna build those lots or work on that, they've had a dozen of them approach them. And nobody wants to do anything in brush.
Well, this concern this
So
gentleman
why-
had
no,
was because of
Why
this
isn't there
house.
any houses being built right now?
Well, we went through a pretty good economic downturn.
No.
And that's what stopped building
I
in
mean,
brush.
that's
Yes, it
why
is.
all the
2008,
property values are
2009, we
way
went
up.
through a downturn economically. That's,
Well, that's been years though.
no, that's right. That's right. But I don't understand your point. You're saying that,
Then why-
that we
why
need to
is
go
this
ahead and allow
problem?
older homes to come in because we can't get new ones built?
Yeah, no one's building anything over there.
You have,
Well-
I mean, you said that that was a reason that the builder wasn't gonna buy those other lots.
no, he mentioned that
So-
house being there. It was a concern to him as a builder, whether or not he would entertain the possibility of building 20 to 30 spec homes over there. That house was a concern
That's
to him. That's all I said.
That's all speculation.
Let's leave that discussion for a different day.
I'd like to remind you too that the city over the last 2 years has offered incentives for new building.
Good point. Why hasn't someone taken advantage of that?
They
Don't
have.
know, but there's other factors, and that's what Rick is saying, but I'm telling you as the city, we're not opposed to growth, and we've gone out of our way to offer incentives to new builders.
Well, yeah, but nobody's doing that. Are they?
Yes, they are. There's 3 houses built on Howell Avenue in the last year.
Well, but that's over, you know, I'm talking in this area where you
I'm saying
specifically said
growth
those
is starting
lots.
to happen now. Growth is starting to happen. For whatever reason, there was no growth for a while. It is starting to happen.
I think
And you
got
have to understand, Howell Avenue has $400,000 homes. If someone were to decide that this is a strategy, I'm not saying that you people are doing that. I'll take you at your word that you're gonna make this house look great. But you have to understand, if somebody is living over there with $400,000 homes, someone could decide to bring an old home, and under our rules right now, I don't see any way that we could prevent them from putting on a $40,000 lot over there and making it, it might be the worst house in the neighborhood, and flipping it for a huge profit to the detriment of all the other property owners out there. That's a concern.
I don't see that because if it doesn't appraise for the value, who's gonna buy it?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they put a house in a $400,000.
I understand.
Okay, they get $250,000 for it. It inflates the maybe it's not even worth $250,000, but it's true that if you're the worst house in the neighborhood, your value comes up. By putting an older house in like that, it can lower the property values of the other people. So their property values are at stake in this. So they definitely have a concern, and you should understand that.
Well, I know what they're saying, and I do, and I've talked to them when I first brought it over there, and there was none of this brought up. and the longer it sat there, they've stewed on it.
Well, it didn't sit there because of what they did, it sat there because of the permits that
say
weren't.
that.
Yeah, well, I'm saying it wasn't their fault it was sitting.
We need to have this discussion a different day. This is for public comment.
Well, we're not making
Yes.
decisions on it, I think we can ask
I
questions
mean,
and
just
have
the
back
end
and forth.
result will be top notch, that's all we have to say on it. And, you know, through this whole process, no one's ever asked me anything about it. So, you know, as far as wanting to discuss or get to find out what's going on, it's all been a witch hunt. Right?
Back again, but I just wanna set the record straight that the last custom-built spec house and that part of Brush was started by myself in the spring of 2013, and I sold it June 3rd, 2014, with a verbal on the lot across the street where the house now sits. And like I said before in my comments, that I would not secure a construction loan for $300,000+ to put a brand new stick-built house on the lot where the home is sitting now, knowing it's gonna be located just to the west. Just wanted to make that clear. I have been either financier, or general contractor, for 5 to 7 homes in Brush since 2003, 4 of those in the Westwood subdivision, hoping that someone that had more dollars than Rob Zelmer would come in and try to build some more houses. Then we had the downturn. And I still would hope that somebody would come in there. Bessler will not. I talked to them twice, and they will not come back. Or they will not come in, period. So, thank you.
Just an afterthought after Mr. Dardan spoke, I think Wayne kind of pointed out and everybody kind of agreed on. When I said move to an environment that's better fit for it, being an older home, maybe in a neighborhood that's more fit for it. I think he would do somebody well in those communities, but creating such a wonderful house, is gonna be as great as he says it's gonna be, that it would raise those values, maybe even his own neighborhood, raise his house values. There again, I see it's just being brought in to this neighborhood, just to up the value of that home, and it's just hurting everybody. And it's becoming a problem. It's a problem for you, it's a problem for us, it's a problem for our community. And you know, I would just like to see somebody come up with some kind of resolution for it to not be there.
Thank you. I think we need to draw this to a close, so is there anything that anybody has missed? We could do maybe one more if we really need to, otherwise I think we need to close this. All right. Thank you all for all the comments, and we'll see where this all goes. Thank you. You're all welcome to stay, but you can take off too if you wish, so.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Is it possible for this council to make a final vote on this issue or not?
Not now.
At any time?
It would, if there was,
It's not on the agenda.
more discussion.
No, I mean not tonight,
You
but in
would,
the
at a
future.
future meeting, put on a work session and tell the city staff what you guys want. So, cause there's no voting on something that you guys haven't given us direction on.
Right.
And then, but before that, I would spend a little time with the city attorney just to talk about
Right.
legalities.
Legalities.
Yeah, I'd like to see the city staff look into specific legal advice to how other communities have dealt with maybe this same issue. We haven't seen this in Brush before. Maybe we're not covered, but maybe other communities have, and they've written things that could be added to the code or whatever to deal with this type of problem.
Okay, we can have that done before next council.
All right, thank you all. We'll move down to number 5, management, the property and casualty workers' compensation insurance.
Okay, each
We'll give-
council member has a copy of CIRSA's premium quotes for 2018. And on the property casualty, not a lot of increase there, just $5,725. But on workman's comp, you'll see that there's a lot higher increase in that quote for the upcoming year. And that's $22,310. And that's just simply because what happens with CIRSA, they look at a rolling 3-year average. So the last 3 years, we've done pretty well on 2 years, but on one of the years, we had a really high, a high number there, and so that's really making our numbers go up. So after next year, we should see that high year come off and potentially see a decrease. However, we know that currently we do have some workman's comp claims out there, and so it's really hard to say what's going to happen the rest of this year and what those dollar figures come up as. So this is the quotes, and we're requesting the City Council approve the premium quotes for 2018.
Is there a motion to approve the premium quotes for 2018?
I make a motion that we approve the property casualty workers' compensation insurance quote.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? And roll call vote.
Mayor Schomburger?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson?
Yes.
Councilor Bain?
Yes.
Councilor Baker?
Yes.
Councilor Becker?
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan?
Yes.
Moving down to finance.
Make a motion that we approve disbursements in payroll from September 11th through the 25th of 2017 totaling $385,905.46.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call vote.
Mayor Schomburger?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson?
Yes.
Councilor Bain?
Yes.
Councilor Baker?
Yes.
Councilor Becker?
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan?
Yes.
Number B, the 2018 budget, the department head presentations. Monty, you gonna?
I'll
do
go
this?
ahead and just lead off on this, and I think it's gonna go in the orders of police department, community development, Lance Schwint with Cemetery Parks and Recreation Golf Course. He's not here this evening, so please review those, and if there's any questions, let us know. Also, the same thing goes with Dale Colrick. He's not gonna be here this evening. Then we'll go to marketing, fire department, they might show up still tonight, and then city clerk, and then myself. And keep in mind that it's required for us to give you a copy of this periodically throughout the budget process. So you're getting this, and we give you small pieces of the budget at a time, so these are the line item requests. But you're gonna find out from the vast majority of these line items, the dollar figure is pretty much the same. There's not a big change in most of these. So as you go through, for the police chief, you're not gonna be going through every single line and trying to explain each one. Each council person has an explanation of what those budget line items are. But if there's anything significant, Chief Anderson, just point that out, and we just move on. But remember for the city council that Joanne's out today, but she'll be back later this week. And any questions you have, just send an email is best to Andrea, so she can direct it to myself or to Joanne in regards to the budget. And we have plenty of time to review this over the next few weeks till you get more information from the city staff in regards to next year's budget. So we'll go ahead and start with Chief Anderson, and these are gonna go pretty quickly here, but you have all the information to take home with you. So we'll start with Chief.
Good evening, council. It's been a long night for you so far, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, the increase for the part-time is basically to get some additional assistance through the spring and summer months to help with our CSO. She is extremely busy throughout the year, even in the wintertime. And a lot of times she can't get caught up. So the part-time, we adjusted it a little bit higher so that maybe we could get an additional person in here 1 or 2 days a week to assist her. The overtime, each agency was looking to dedicate a narcotics task force officer. Unfortunately, we can't do that due to resources. So we're going to asked for an additional $5,000 so that we can participate in a countywide set team, which will address narcotics issues as well as other criminal activity. Some of this has been reduced, so I won't go through that. Our arms and ammo, an additional SWAT team member was placed on the countywide SWAT team, and each year they have to have an additional qualification of 1,000 rounds per weapon that they utilize, so that additional funding is going to go towards there. In addition, we are the agency that handles the less lethal for the county. We're the only instructor in the county. Our telephone is going to increase. Obviously, we got cell phones for everybody, but the county is looking to upgrade its technology in our computer aided dispatch and our crime reporting. A part of that is going to be in-car computer systems, and for those to function requires internet service and modems, so that's where that cost partially goes to. Computer maintenance, the state has mandated e-discovery. Part of that e-discovery is eating up our server space, which is a detriment to us, but benefits everybody else in the state. So we're going to need to upgrade some of our server space. Our building maintenance increased a little bit there just to fix some of the aesthetics and try to get make it a more professional looking when the community comes in. Miscellaneous equipment, again, we need a couple of pole cameras. That helps reduce our officers actually setting on a house or having to do surveillance in man hours. We can utilize pole cameras to assist in our investigations. And I believe that is the majority of any increases, a lot of decreases. Any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Karen?
For community development, the only item to really note is the line item labeled consultant, number 1304. That's the funds that we use to pay additional consultants that help us with a variety of regulation updates and changes. And since there are a number of things that we're looking at revising, I thought it best to increase that line item for 2018. And then otherwise, the airport budget, that is a status quo budget over the year prior. Questions?
Thank you.
All right. As I mentioned, Lance Schwint's not in, and he has the cemetery, parks, recreation, golf course budget. And he said that pretty much everything is about the same as it has been in the past. So if there's any questions as you review those, send those to us. And then the same thing with Dale Colrick. Not a lot of change in his line items. But again, please take your time to view those. And we'll turn it over to Tyler.
Thank you, Monty. The only real change of mine is pretty simple as well. In comparison to previous years, is just 1505 economic development. Request an increase there. The expo that Councilor Bain was referring to that we were at Keensburg, that's likely to be an ongoing one that I think is valuable for the city of Brush to be a part of continually. And this year is the first year that we put money toward it as a sponsor, and that'll likely be needed each and every year. So just working that amount of money into the budget if approved.
Thank you.
Okay, and Tad Anderson hasn't made it, fire chief, so we'll turn over to city clerk.
Okay, the only real change in the city clerk budget, we lowered the election amount as we don't anticipate any elections, but I did put 2,000 in the event that maybe we do have one question or something. And then in records management, I did increase that by $1,400, and I'm hoping to have permission to get a municipal or social archive software, and this is one that helps capture all of the new social, the Facebook, the Twitter accounts, or anything that city staff may have. It's very important for open records that we be able to provide this, and this software would help us. So that's the only change I have.
You're the last one, I think.
Okay, starting on page 104, legislative, that's the city council's budget, and everything in your budget is the same as last year, so no changes there. If you go to page 106, that's the executive or the mayor's budget, and we left everything the same there as well. Okay. And then if you go to city administrator, if you go down the lines, you'll see that no changes there either. And if you go to page 112, administrative, this is all the front desk operations, anything we do administratively. The only thing really to note there is that in the past, under legal, that's where we used to contract for Bo's legal services. We went down to from the 25,000 down to the 5,000 because, as you know, city attorney now is a part-time position with the city. So Joanne will be putting that up into the employees' salaries in that area. So that went down by $20,000. Any question on administrative? Now remember, we go through those pretty quickly, and so there's 116 pages total. So take your time to go through those. And I would say on the large percentage of all these line items, all we really do is we look back at the last 3 years and see how we're trending. And if everything's looking good, we're staying the same, we don't expect anything different. I always use Xcel Energy, our electrical services. If we see everything just about the same, we don't try and change it by $1 or $2. You know, they're big ticket items. We just leave those in there, and we just use that rolling average. If everything looks good, we just leave it there. So unless there's something really unique, we don't adjust those too much on a year-to-year basis.
Thank you. We will move on now to staff reports. Police is first. Travis.
A couple things. I invited Lisa here. I know we was talking about vicious dogs and the dog ordinance, and so I invited her here in case you all had some questions you wanted to ask her, or wanted some first-hand knowledge, because she's actually the expert in that field. So if you don't mind, I'll give her a couple minutes to kind of talk to you.
I'll use this. I really don't need the microphone. Good evening.
Good
Not
evening.
sure if all of you know me. I think you do. I'm animal control. I did hear their concerns. I am aware of the 2 dogs that Mary was talking about. We do not have any jurisdiction over what the sheriff's office does. Munns Addition is county, although the sheriff's office has asked me to come assist them, and I've been right there. We've had 735 dog at large calls in 2 years. 11 dangerous and vicious dog tickets were issued. Those dogs were impounded for the 10-day quarantine. They were held and returned back to the owner. We do not have any justifying to tell people what they can and can't have in this town. I can't tell somebody you need to go buy a border collie, or you need to buy a lab. I do know where every pit in this town is. I'm aware of them. The 2 pits that attacked the animals are in quarantine in Fort Morgan. They did come from Clayton Street. Those dogs were not Cujos. They did not go out foaming at the mouth to destroy animals. This was a game. It was a terrible game. I feel for the people who lost animals, pets, goats, chickens. You know, and like I said, I've tried to talk to these people several times and tell them there's no ban for pits here, so therefore people do get them. It is a concern. I am aware of them. I do try to help everybody that has a fear with those animals. I realize that some of my dog calls, I've been dispatched to a dog call for a pit. I get over there, it's a boxer. It's not a pit. The dog snarls at me. I get it out to the shelter, the dog is fine. Dogs get scared. They get terrified. You have to understand that. I'm here to tell tell you that I understand the people's concern for vicious and dangerous dogs. I have never been bit. I've been in this business for 27 years dealing with dogs, cats, ferrets, pigs, goats, turkeys. I understand their concern. I also understand from a pet owner, I too own dogs.
What was the numbers you gave out? How many dog at larges?
735 dog at large calls in 2 years.
And then the vicious dog was 11 times?
We've had
Or
35 vicious dog calls.
35 calls.
11 were issued tickets in 2 years. Dispatch will
Well,
dispatch.
the question I was gonna have, on those 11, were there like multiple offenders, like a dog that was it like 2 dogs that did most of those 11
No,
things,
sir.
or is it?
None of those 11 are multiple offenders. They're individual, different animals, different owners. Not one of those is a repeat offender. The 735 dog at large calls, yes, we've had some repeat offenders. The first ticket is a dog at large, the second one is a summons to court. On the repeat offenders, I go back several times and do rechecks on that address. Their dog's been out. I have a lady now that's coming back to court for the 3rd time. She claims that kids walking by are letting her dog out. We have gotten a little latch for her gate, and it seemed to have stopped for a while. I'm hoping that that works.
What, for the council's benefit, can you explain how much a fine or fee is for dog at large, staying at the dog pound, daily rates, things like that?
You bet.
And if you happen to know what that vicious dog current fine is for a vicious dog?
A dangerous and vicious dog is a summons to court. The judge normally starts it at a $300 fine. It's up to him what he takes off or how he works that. Dog at large is a $50 ticket. A summons to court, the judge normally starts at any range from $50 to $300. If your dog is impounded for a dangerous, vicious dog because it's bit somebody and you do not have current rabies or vaccinations up to date, it is a $100 flat fee that has to be paid at the end of those 10 days or your dog does not get released from the shelter. When that dog is released from the shelter, I have given everybody 24 hours from that date to get their dog vaccinated. If they do not vaccinate their dog within the 24 hours, I go issue them a ticket for no vaccines. Then they get another 24 hours to get it vaccinated after they appear in court. When a dog is picked up, it is a $30 impound fee, automatic, and that does have to be paid before your dog gets released. If your dog is not released within the first day, it is $7 every day thereafter. A vicious dog, like I said, it's up to the judge to issue that amount. I don't have any pull on what he issues. I've seen him go up to $300, and then break it down and waive 150 of it. So they still get a $150 fine plus the $50 dog at large ticket plus court costs of $40. Like I said, I do know where these dogs are at. The one that happened with Mary, I was not on duty, it was over a weekend. Officer Quick called me at home, and I do tell everybody my phone is on 24/7. I may not answer your call at night, but I do get back to you the first thing in the morning. Officer Quick called me, I told him where those dogs belonged. That owner was given a ticket. One of the things that I do stress to people is if you call in a dog, you have the right to call it in. You also have the right to sign that ticket. If that dog snarled at you and we did not witness it, I feel really bad about writing a ticket for a dangerous dog and I didn't see a thing. So I do encourage these people, if that dog growled at you or snarled at you or frightened you, you have the right to sign that ticket. And you know, I will be there for both parties. I will help you out. I will come back and do rechecks on that dog, on that family, just to ease this kind of burden.
I have a question about, oh, go ahead.
Do you feel that our ordinance is adequate, or is there something you'd like to change, or would make your job better, or, you know, do you see anything that we should get into?
I feel that the ordinance is, I feel it's worded fine. I feel that, the officers and myself, we do push the law. And like I said, I encourage these people, if it's midnight and you open your door and there's a strange dog standing there and it's snarled at you, you have the right to call it in. There is no, you know, we don't tell you you can't call. You can call. And there is an officer on duty 24/7. If I am not on duty, then, the officers are really good about telling me about a problem. And I try and get back to that problem. I feel that the ordinance is wrote. We stand beside it. I enforce it. But like I said, I cannot enforce something I don't know about. I've had people call me on Wednesday and say, this dog did this on Sunday. I can't do anything. It's 3 days later. But I do encourage them, call it in, get it on record, and you have the right to sign that ticket.
What does that mean when they sign the ticket? They're pressing charges, is that?
It is.
Okay, so that would require them possibly to go to court to testify?
Correct.
Absolutely, if it goes to trial.
Okay.
And I've
Now,
got
in the case that Mary was talking about, the dogs that did this, did I understand you correctly to say they were from Munns Addition, therefore the county?
They are not. They live on Williams.
They live on Williams, okay. So you were talking about a different instance then?
The two pits that attacked several
Oh,
animals.
all of the animals, okay.
They came from brush, clear across town. They ran to Munns Addition.
Oh, okay, so the attack occurred in Munns Addition, so therefore we don't have jurisdiction, okay.
In your opinion, would a increase in a ticket or a fine, would that help deter some of these problems or not?
I would never, ever turn down an increase, because when you do increase it, it does make people stand up and take notice. Right now, it's $50 dog at large ticket. I do believe that the vicious, dangerous dog could go up, and that may deter some of these owners to say, we need to build our fences up. If we're gonna have, you know, a dangerous, vicious dog, or the dog's been accused of being dangerous and vicious, maybe there's something more we can do. We can hire those fences. We can, you know, kennel the dog in a dog run instead of a large backyard. It would make a difference.
Well, like I said before, I've been bit. I've got 3 dogs of my own, and I have a pretty high fence around my whole backyard because I've had that experience. So that's why I was asking if that would make the owners. Okay.
I'm gonna follow up with that, Heath. In addition to an increased fine for second offenders, even first-time offenders, and second, what about chipping the dogs that are vicious, that we know that are vicious dogs that have bitten before, or chipping dogs that are repeat offenders? That's my first question, and then I have a second question. I wouldn't be opposed to a pit bull ban, because I was attacked here by pit bulls, and you know where. On my street, in my alley, and not only once, but twice, they came at me. So nobody's kidding here. They're all right on. They're very serious.
The only problem with that is a pit bull ban. I worked for Fort Morgan. Officer Simpson and myself would never turn our back on a chow. There's one chow in Fort Morgan. I would never, ever turn my back on.
I'm not saying that other dogs aren't dangerous.
Correct.
But we definitely have a pit bull problem, and I darn well know we do. I'm talking about a pit bull ban, and start with that. I'm not saying an across-the-board dangerous dog ban, but I'm saying start with a pit bull ban. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I know other.
I would.
I know other cities have them.
Council decision, nothing with code enforcement.
Right.
She's just enforcing, so that's a policy decision of you guys.
But we do have a problem with pit bulls, do we not? Okay, asked and
I
answered.
wouldn't say yes
The
or no
other,
on that.
okay, the other, question I have is why aren't we chipping in the ordinance, why aren't we chipping these dogs that we already know are problems?
Chipping would not stop them from running at large. Chipping would not stop them from being dangerous.
If they went across from my side of town into Munn's Additions, we would know. It's a way to track the dogs. It's also a way to keep a dog in quarantine.
It's only a way to track the dogs if everyone has a chipper reader. It's not a way to, the county will not move or not, say that you have to chip your dog. So.
Oh,
I'm
yeah, they
trying to
do. Actually, it happened to me and I was attacked south of town. Judge Shingle ordered the dog owner to have the dog chipped.
And Judge Jones has put in some of his orders for the dog to be chipped, but it's not 100% guaranteed that it's gonna stop anything.
But it's one more weapon that we have.
It is.
All right.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you. This
You're
has been a
welcome.
great discussion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, went longer than your little 1 or 2 minutes, but that's okay. All right.
One of the things I would point out is that I'm just looking through this ordinance now and I'm not having any luck finding what I'm looking for. If we have a penalty set in that ordinance, we should look at changing it because we're now a court of record and the penalty's a lot higher for a court of record.
Okay.
And I've been thumbing through here looking for the
It does.
penalty and I don't see it. Did you find it?
Yeah, part of it. It does say that on a second offense of a dangerous dog, the animal can be euthanized. Is that correct? So on a second offense, not a first offense. And I was a little confused about the fine structure. It says in here that on a first offense, the fine is no less than $50, which seems woefully low for a dangerous dog to me. We just upped the dog
raised
at
it.
large to $50 earlier this year, I think, or last year.
Last year, or the year before.
But it doesn't tell us what the maximums are here.
Well, the statute says that.
Okay.
And it changes every year because it's adjusted for inflation.
That's from the state. It follows state statute or?
No, the state adjusts a maximum penalty that a municipal court of record can assess.
Okay.
So that number keeps up with inflation.
But because we are a court of record officially now,
We can fine up to that amount.
Okay.
Does anybody know what the maximum penalty is right now?
I don't know off the top of my head, no. I think 1,000, yeah, but I think that's adjusted though too. And I don't know what that adjusted number is.
Well, I'd be in favor of raising it
Well,
to
that'll
that max.
be for
I know it is.
I agree.
I'm reading what
Yeah.
Rick has highlighted here, and the numbers I'm seeing say no less than, no less than, no less than. They
Right.
don't set a
Maximum,
floor.
yeah.
And
A
the
ceiling.
maximum, of course, is our statutory limitation.
I mean, the thing is you gotta be responsible for your dogs. And if you set a maximum fine or ticket, whatever, people are gonna think about that a little bit more and be a little more responsible. I mean,
But here's the thing.
I mean,
We don't wanna
I
we don't
can't
wanna
even-
write a maximum into the ordinance
I mean, I
because
can't,
it changes every
I
year.
can't even send my kids outside to walk the dogs without saying, hey, you might want to take this baseball bat with you in case you run into another vicious dog.
I don't know if you're talking about a maximum, but raising the
You know,
minimum.
yeah,
fine.
raise it, yes.
Raising the
Whatever,
minimum.
Right, I
Yes.
think that's.
whatever the state has.
Would council like this on next work session?
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, you got to make people accountable and responsible for their dogs.
I don't know why
We'll get
not,
back
Bo,
to that.
because, one more thing, very quickly. In criminal statutes, Bo, there's a maximum set. And I don't know why when we write up the ordinance that we can't go.
Because
a high
the state
maximum?
adjusts it every year, and if you said the maximum's 1,000, and the state
Well-
adjusted it to 1,100, we're stuck at 1,000.
But
Without
we can write
redoing,
into our ordinance that whatever the state sets as a maximum.
that is
Gotcha.
in our,
Because-
that is in our code already.
Okay. That's the way it should be. And
That
that's
should-
what the understanding is that people should have, is that they can be fined the maximum.
And if they don't want
We'll
paid,
have
they
it
shouldn't
go
get their dog
to the
back.
Police chief here to
Yeah,
continue, and we'll continue on.
Okay,
Yeah.
and just real quick, food for thought for the work session is a lot of communities require indemnity insurance for certain breeds of dogs, so that might be,
Rather than a ban.
well, or a ban, one or the other, but a lot of communities do that. So that's just food for thought for you to think on for the next week, couple weeks. So let's move on to something fantastic. So, out of 246 law enforcement agencies in the state of Colorado, Brush Police Department is one of 7 who had 0 errors in their crime reporting.
Ta-da!
Mary Kay did a fantastic job. And we're in the running for some award from the state. I don't know what it is. It might be a pizza party. If that's the case, you're all invited. So, and then another fantastic bit of news, Lisa. We had the state come in and done a routine spot audit, and I think this is the first time in its history that we had 0 violations. So good job, Lisa.
Nice.
Because of the opioid epidemic, you know, not just the heroin, but the pills, we have sent multiple people to Narcan instructor school, so each officer is now outfitted with Narcan, so if we run across an individual that's overdosing on heroin or an opioid, we can administer Narcan and hopefully save them from overdose. And our new fingerprint live scan is now active, so feel free if you want to come take a look at it. It's nothing spectacular, but it's a great piece of technology, and Lisa is kind of taking that under her wing, and so if you want your fingerprints taken, we won't hit submit that you went out and shoplifted, but we'll mess around with it. So.
All right, thank you. Moving along, Karen, Community Development.
I have 3 items to note this evening. The first is that on last Friday, the 22nd, I issued a certificate of occupancy for the duplex at 717 Hospital Road. So there's 2 new dwelling units in the city of Brush. I believe their tenants were going to be moving in here in pretty short order. And then after 8.5 months of inactivity, the temporary workforce housing application has been reactivated, and we're making every effort to have that application ready for council hearing on October 23rd. So that's the status of that. And then the last item to note, in front of you this evening, you have a schedule related to the development of regulations for cargo containers within the city of Brush. And we do need to stick to that schedule just because of the consultant's schedule as well as council's own regular meeting schedule. So we're looking at doing a community open house on Tuesday, October 10th from 4 to 6. Yes, that's a little bit earlier in the day, but the thought was that we'd be able to capture a lot of those business owners that would be part of the primary people that would have an interest in that type of a storage facility. They'd be able to pop in on their way at the end of the day. And then Monday, October 16th, we would do a joint work session with the City Council and the Planning Commission, and that's where we refine those results from the community open house, and that's where you get a lot of the real meat that goes into that regulation. And then as part of the overall adoption process, Planning Commission would have their public hearing on Monday, November 6th at 5:30. So for the city councilors and the mayor who serve on the Planning Commission, I need you to please make sure you put that date on your calendar in addition to these others. And then we switch to regular council meetings with that second meeting in November being the first reading of a proposed ordinance, and then the first meeting in December would be the second reading of that proposed ordinance. So moving forward.
All right. Thank you. Moving along to marketing, Tyler.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things with housing. In relation to Mr. Dardanis earlier, who's asking the question that we wanted and still want to know so badly, why aren't people building in Brush? And we put together a meeting with local contractors last month to invite them to talk about why that would be. And so we wanted an open forum and discussion, essentially to find out, okay, this is where we are, these are the opportunities, why isn't anybody taking these opportunities? And for those who came, at the end of it, they had no idea why no one's taking the opportunities. They themselves said, maybe we should jump on this. And so it was a good opportunity for any contractors in Brush that we reached out to come and voice any concerns or thoughts and feedback as to anything that might be obstructing their way. And so as of right now, we've heard nothing, only hearsay here and there. So the opportunity still abounds. And so with that, we're doing a new home building workshop on October 12th at 6 to 7. I know there's a forum for City Council from 7 to 8 that night, but at 6 to 7 at the golf course, we're going to be offering that to the community for anyone who might be interested in building a new home, but they're unsure of the steps necessary. So we'll have a contractor speaking about the building process, someone from a bank speaking about the financing. I'll be speaking about the city, and we'll have some realtors there as well speaking about different aspects of that. So, hopefully we'll see some turnout and get some more building going on in Brush.
What was that date, Tyler?
The 12th, October 12th, Thursday night. Then Pedal the Plains and Oktoberfest, the last busy 2 weekends here in Brush. Of course, both of those being down at the park. First and foremost, thanks to everyone who helped put those together. Tremendous partnership and a lot of tired people, including myself, putting those on. But we thank the community for that. And that location at the park, there's a lot of good feedback from the community for both of those events. It's a beautiful setting, of course. It's a beautiful park. If anyone in the community does have any feedback, especially specific to Pedal the Plains, they asked for a follow-up meeting with each of the communities that they went through to hear what went good, if anything went bad, what that was. And so we're going to be meeting on Friday, teleconference. But if anyone in the community has any feedback that they'd like to pass on, please do so with me over the next couple of days.
Thank you. Down to Andrea, City Clerk.
Just have you look at your calendars this week. The 28th from 4 to 8 is the CML Fall District meeting in Fort Morgan at the MAV. And then the other calendar events you can see and call me if you have questions.
And Monty.
Just one quick update. Earlier, I guess a few months ago, I mentioned that we were awarded the fire department grant through DOLA, and we finally got in this week the contract for it. We've been waiting for that for a while, and it looks like the award is going to be $780,000. And I was looking at it on my smartphone, so the font was kind of small, but I believe it's a 50-50 grant, which is better than what we thought we're going to be. We thought we're going to be a 60-40, and not in our favor, but 50-50 is even better. So Andrea put the word out to all of those that are on the committee or team that's working on that project. And also in the next week or so, we're going to be putting out the bid. So we'll put that out to bid in probably about a 30-45 day review period, and do a walkthrough with any of the contractors bidding on the project, and then we'll be bringing that back to City Council. So pretty excited about that project. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Council reports.
Are we gonna put the vicious dog issue on the next meeting, work session?
The Pedal the Plains, I've ridden in those for 5 years, and just kind of a summary or background, because a lot of people are saying, why are we having all these bike riders come through town? And the main reason, or it all started with an initiative from the governor to try to get Front Range people out here so that they can see what this area has to offer, or see what we do, all these kind of things, get connected more with it. And he connected with the Denver Post, and the guy was heavily involved when he was growing up with 4-H and FFA. So that's why Pedal the Plains always has FFA and 4-H people involved, and a lot of that organization going with it. But the main, along the route, everywhere we stop along the route is an educational stop, and they have a little posters along the way to kind of get you interested in the subject, and then when you stop, you go through that. One of them was at a farm where we learned about the 4-H, and the son was there who had pigs, and he came first, second, and third in the fair and all that. So they get that exposure and what the farm does with things. As we were coming through on the last day, going through, before we got to Western Sugar, they had signs talking about how it's a co-op and how many members are in the co-op and where it started. Then you get to Western Sugar, and they have a sugar beet there, and then they have the sugar, and they go through the whole process of how that and what that is with things, and people ask questions. Then after that, the little signs start talking about dairy, and how many dairy farms are in Colorado, and what a cow produces every day, and how much milk, and all the other stuff that goes, and how many families it supports, and where it all goes. Then we stopped at a dairy, and they had milk there for us, but you could also get into the dairy and stand right where they're milking cows and see the cows come in and the cows move, and that was really fascinating. But that whole process along the way is those kinds of things where I keep hearing from Front Range people, I never knew that. This is amazing. Wow, this is stuff.
You just go to the grocery store and get food, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that Brushco. They had the tomatoes out there, and he said, these tomatoes go to Costco, and these go to King Soopers, and they're going, really? They're from, and so you get that kind of thing. The one other thing is they give away a lot of, well, they don't give away, but they award a lot of money to different organizations. The Sands got money, and several other organizations got money, and we got an award from the lottery. We got a Starburst Award from the lottery for our skate park. And that was, the next day, that was our first stop, was at the skate park, where we learned all about the skate park and stuff. But we got that, and this award, and I was gonna give it to Lance, but we'll give it to him later, so.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was that night. All right, that's all I have. Anything else?
I think 165 kids, didn't I read in the paper, 165 first graders were given bicycles.
I forgot to mention that Anadarko was a sponsor of that, and along with Wish for Wheels group. And one of our stops, you could build a bike. They had all the bikes there, and people stopped and built these little bikes. And it was 116 is what I heard, but what it was every first grader got a bike.
And the school district and the city both contributed to that as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty neat.
I'd like to talk just for a second about the meeting last Monday night with Chamber. And it was well attended by Chamber directors, and all of us, I think, were there, except for perhaps Heath. We talked about their concerns with the dilapidated buildings, code violations downtown. And Monty talked a little bit about what we could do. And so probably now is the time to decide if we want to put that on a work session. In terms of having a consultant hired to come in and write an ordinance, perhaps, that's enforceable to just the downtown. So I'd like to get that ball rolling.
I think we're waiting for the chamber to get a letter to the city.
Yeah.
And that's the normal process. That's what we've been trying to use, from the sign code to the shipping containers, and probably eventually to the issue with moving old houses in the town. If we don't have something very clear about a code that we can look at, or policy, it's hard to really enforce anything. So getting that consultant to come out will be a lot of help. And so I think as soon as we get the letter from the chamber, we're calling it right now maintenance code. It might be called something different by the time we're said and done with it. And we talked about either the downtown area only, or still discussions open whether to go further out. But that's for council to decide that. And yeah, we can have that on a future work session as soon as we get that letter.
I think timing-wise, though, we should probably deal with storage containers, and then with that, because otherwise,
Yeah, I
just dates and times and stuff. But we'll see how all that flows. Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. We're adjourned, and we'll take a 2-minute break and have a work session.